think we're gonna be that all that long. It's the deodorant that he's using. It's Thursday, July 23rd at 2 p.m. This is the Board of Commissioners Auditor Selection Committee. It's called to order. City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Hendricks.
Here.
Vice Mayor Andrews.
Here.
Commissioner Price. Here. Commissioner Hodges.
Here.
Commissioner Douthert. I'll let the minutes show that Commissioner Douthert is absent.
Is there any public comment?
No.
Okay, thank you. Topics for discussion, operational plan moving forward. Vice Mayor Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since I volunteered to chair this Auditor Selection Committee, and you're going to look very nice on the library board, by the way, sir. I've just, I did take a look at a couple of things here, and the first thing before we get started, I want anybody that served on that Audit Selection Committee prior to know that this is no way indicative or a reflection on your service to that committee. At no point you did nothing wrong. The process was flawed, and I just want to thank them for their service, and I don't want them to think that, in any way we look down on it. The other part of this, and after looking through this and after doing a little research on it, the one thing I do know is I don't want to try to reinvent the wheel here. I found out to my comfort that the actual document and the corresponding requirements were originally written by Vince Tenaglia and Patrick Cade. Vince and Patrick have forgotten more about an auditor selection than I care to ever know, so I trust their knowledge on this subject, and it wasn't really doctored with, and it was even talked about in that meeting prior to them starting that this was a document that Vince had put together, and Patrick obviously helped out as well. The second part is we also don't want to look like complete fools to our potential vendors. The thought of making each one of these seven companies that responded, go back and redo every aspect of their bid, in my opinion, is pretty unwise. So, frankly, I think if we did that, we'd be lucky to get anybody to respond. I mean, who do you think is going to push their way to the front of the line to be the auditor of Crazy Town, right? So, I think we try to keep this as simple as possible and as transparent as possible. So, if Mr. Trask approves the idea that I'm going to put forward to you, I'd like to present it to you right now. I don't really want to change anything about the parameters of the RFP. I think what we'll do, hopefully, we can reopen it to the public. If a company would like to make changes, they will have 2 weeks to submit those changes. If a company just wants to keep their existing proposal, they can shoot us quick correspondent and say they just want to keep their current proposal in place. What we'll then do, we'll allow a 2-week period of time to pass. We'll close the process and we'll keep the bids sealed. Okay. After that, after the bids are sealed, the process is over. This group will have a short meeting with Andrew and Patrick to review our current evaluation criteria and make any changes necessary. By looking at it, I've seen this document before. We could certainly look through it today. It probably doesn't make any sense to until we get some financial professionals in here to help us out and go through it. I think we'll end up keeping it the exact same way it is, but if you want to make changes, I'm all the more for it. Once the changes are made and agreed to, we'll make those changes public, okay? We'll then open the bids and we'll make our ranking selections. So Mr. Trask says this is legally sufficient and there are no objections from the board. We can start advertising this almost immediately, I think, meet in a few weeks after the bids are closed and have an auditor by Labor Day. Okay, Tom, tell me I'm crazy.
You're not crazy, but there is a process that we need to follow. And the whole purpose of redoing this was to make sure that we follow the process. Before, we messed up on one particular aspect of it by not making one of you the chair of the committee. So I'm just going to go ahead and read through the actual requirements, and then I'm going to make a suggestion to you, and then you can take it or leave it. And I'm going to read directly from the statute. This is 218.391. And paragraph 3, there are 5 requirements. The Auditor Selection Committee shall, subparagraph A, establish factors to use for the evaluation of audit services to be provided by a certified public accounting firm, duly licensed under Chapter 473 and qualified to conduct audits in accordance with the government auditing standards as adopted by the Florida Board of accountancy. Such factors shall include, but are not limited to, ability of personnel, experience, ability to furnish the required services, and such other factors as may be determined by the committee to be applicable to its particular requirements. So that is requirement number one, establish the factors. The factors have to be established before you do anything else. Those factors can be similar to the factors that were used before. The city manager has handed out 2 documents to you today, and I'm sure that he'll be able to explain those to you in relation to the factors used for evaluation of the audit. Item B. In other words, requirement number 2, publicly announce requests for proposal. Public announcements must include at a minimum a brief description of the audit and indicate how interested firms can apply for consideration. C, that's requirement number 3, provide interested firms with a request for proposal. The request for proposal shall include information on how proposals are to be evaluated. That's why we have to do the evaluation factors first. And such other information the committee determines is necessary for the firm to prepare a proposal. The 4th requirement is evaluate the proposals by qualified firms. If compensation is one of the factors established pursuant to paragraph A, it shall not be the sole predominant factor used to evaluate the proposals. And then the last thing is rank and recommend in order of preference, no fewer than 3 firms deemed to be the most highly qualified to perform the required services after considering the factors established pursuant to the first paragraph A. And if fewer than 3 firms respond to the request for proposal, the committee shall recommend such firms as it deems the most highly qualified. So, that all being said, there is a process that we have to follow. If you don't establish the factors first, then the process is flawed. Once you establish those factors, then you can determine whether or not you're going to go forward with new requests for proposals. My advice to you is the cleanest and most legally, technically correct would be to go out completely for new proposals. And then after you get them back, we can go through the next step of the process. So the way I see this as your attorney to protect you, and the best way I can protect you is maybe the next meeting can be fairly short, or maybe you want to do it today. Establish the factors for the evaluation, and then make a decision what you're going to go ahead and do relative to going out for new proposals. The statute doesn't talk about the fact that it could be opening up a prior set of proposals, but if you're going to change the factors in the previous proposal, you need to go out absolutely, because that basically is modifying the proposal that they responded to. So, so those are the processes that I would suggest that you go through. If you do adopt these, whatever the factors were in the previous meeting, and I'm sure the city manager is going to explain these because I'm not following how the board or prior committee has adopted it, but maybe the city manager can go over that. But if you adopt these as something that is acceptable to you, then we can talk about maybe opening up the request for proposals again. In my mind, it's not appropriate to open up the prior ones because it's basically going out all over again. My suggestion is you just go back out. They already have their responses ready. They can just modify them. And I don't think it would be that difficult, especially if you have 8 of them. You have 8 of them?
7 or 8. Yeah.
7 or 8 of them. You have a lot of people interested, and it may get better the second time around because now they've seen what the other ones are bidding. Now they may even come in better for you. In other words, a lower fee on an annualized basis. So it may be beneficial to you to do it. That's my recommendation to you. So I know that you want to do it quickly, but it's my job to make sure that we don't get challenged later on. So.
No, that's great. And that's exactly what I said, except for a couple of therefores that you threw in there. I mean,
okay.
You were just repeating what I went over. So, yes.
If I may, Mr. Chair, one thing that was mentioned that Tom talked about, these documents, the packets that came in, have never been made a public record. It never got to that point. So they don't know what the other documents are. And I think also if you do open it up again, you could have additional people, or some of these firms might choose not to apply. So it's a double-edged sword. But, and also to let you know, on these rankings, I did go to Patrick, and Patrick is the one that printed out the rankings for me. And where the second page, where you can actually read without glasses, is really what's in this column that says general requirements. So knowing that I need help reading things that are very small font, I wanted to make sure that I brought it forward to you in both adaptations. Now, how the actual matrix worked, I'd be more than happy to have Finance have Patrick here, and he can walk us through that with Andrew. But I didn't, I thought you just need to adopt what the rating topics were. But maybe I'm incorrect, so I'll let our city attorney comment on that if I'm incorrect.
So there is nothing in the state statute that specifically talks about what the factors actually are, except for the very end of the sentence where it says, such factors shall include but not limited to the ability of the personnel, experience, ability to furnish the required services, and any other factors as may be determined by the committee to be applicable. So you've got basically 3 things that you have to do. Mm-hmm. You have to determine their ability of their personnel, their experience, and their ability to furnish the services, but other factors you can include. So on this form, Bob, is this, so when this committee is reviewing the RFPs, are they going to rank it by using a numbered scale like 1 to 5 or 1 to 10?
I believe it was 1 to 5 is what they had decided to do. But again, I wasn't directly involved in the process, so, but if you want me to, I can go grab Patrick right now, and I know Andrew's on a conference call, but I can get Patrick down here and have him walk us through it if you'd like.
I would suggest that,
Yeah.
that we do it now since we have the time, and we can keep this moving. And then one other thing I would remind you that as the chair of the meeting, the vice mayor should be handling everything in the meeting. So, Mr. Mayor, I know you want to run the meeting, but I need the vice chair to run the meeting. So,
No, I'm good with that.
Okay. So then we don't have anybody complaining later on that he wasn't actually the chair.
No, that's how Doug got drafted.
Okay. All right. So if
Kurt's getting Patrick, and so he should be here shortly.
Well, I have a quick question. Under Section 4, should we add J and specifically put the factor ability to, whatever that one was that is not in here? Ability to produce the...
ability to furnish the required services.
Right. I don't know whether that's inferred with A to I, but maybe we put that in there just to make it clean.
Yeah, each one of these should be in there in some form or another.
Okay. Ability to furnish.
Ability to furnish the required services, ability of personnel, and I think qualifications and experience will handle that.
Yep.
Yeah, so
The only one missing was that ability to furnish required
services. Yeah.
So what are you doing on that? Happy under 4, adding
Under 4,
J?
add a J, just so that we follow the statute, because the statute says there's 3 things you got to include, and the other 2 are in there.
So we would just add a J,
Yep.
ability to furnish the required services.
Yeah.
And then you would have all 3 of them.
Yep.
That was ability to perform. Required.
Ability to furnish.
Furnish, okay.
The required services.
Mr. City Attorney, is that enough of a change to resubmit this out? And, I mean, I know it sounds like I'm trying to shortcut this, but I guess I am. I would like to at least give these guys, I mean, I'm assuming, only because I never read one of these, because they weren't open, that if somebody's responding to this, they basically have Section 1, Section 2 independent, Section 3 license, and they kind of go section by section down this thing, right?
You would think so, but they don't.
Okay, right.
So
okay.
since it's 1/3 of the requirements that was missing, I would say that that's a substantial...
That's a substantial change.
And so you would want them to go through the process again.
Right, and we could also make it relatively easy on them, that they'd only have to add J to their...
Right.
To their list, and then...
Well, we would add it.
We would add it, and then they would add J to their proposal.
And then submit it to the proposers.
Right.
Okay.
Now, are we allowed to contact the 7 or 8 and tell them we're going to redo it with just this one slight addition?
So we would follow our normal RFP process, and the normal RFP process, it would be submitted to the same groups of individuals, and we would make sure that the 8 that responded were also given the opportunity, but it would go out exactly the way we had done it before. So if it went out to 500 people, it would go out to 500 people, and then they could contact the city, and they could ask for that RFP package or take it off the website and then do the response that way. So you'd want to do it at least exactly the way that it was done before, to the widest group, and then as a courtesy, these 8 individuals for sure. And maybe Patrick can tell us how many people, how many groups it went out to.
Okay. Patrick, step right up, my man. I actually was saying very nice things about you. I'm not going to repeat them, but I did when this all started, so.
I'll wait. Go ahead.
But you know what, we're looking over, I did mention earlier that you and Vince had put together this a while ago, right? From
about 6 years ago.
This goes back to when I was back here. And you didn't really change it much when you put it out to this new group, correct?
As far as I know, we took the same RFP, and we might have brought it to the city attorney just to review it.
And change the date on it and put it out, right? So it's a byproduct of you and Vince, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we were talking about earlier, and that's when I said nice things about you.
Yeah, what Vince put in the RFP, these are the questions that, he wanted answers from all the RFPs.
Okay.
He wanted to know all this information, and that's why we made the matrix with these questions.
Excellent. And, I would assume, only because you just redid this, that looking down this list, you're pretty comfortable with what, we're certainly not selecting someone to go to the moon or anything like that. We're selecting somebody to do our audit. But you're pretty comfortable with these qualifications, being able to get us a solid auditor, right?
Yeah. Last time we had 3 or 4 committee members who looked at this and evaluated it, and we all had the top 3 were the same, and we all consensus on who was the
Perfect. Perfect.
And it included, I believe, we had 1 city commissioner on there, so
okay.
that's good.
You wouldn't change the order of any of these? These are how you'd like to see them, and I'd like to see it go forward?
I'd like this the way it goes.
Okay.
I don't think we had any major changes in the RFP from last time.
Okay.
Except for maybe some date changes and some of that stuff.
Does the board have any questions for Patrick as far as any of these parameters for the RFP?
I do. Section 5.
Section 5, yes.
I don't know. Typically, when someone does an audit, do they have a partner, manager, supervisor, staff, and specialist all working on it?
Some do, some don't.
Okay.
Whoever's on the committee to evaluate, of course, it's your personal opinions on how you're evaluating each company. And, in my opinion, do I want a big company that have all these people that they could throw at it, or do I not mind a small company who just has, a partner and maybe 1 specialist? It's just the way you want to see it. if you like a big company, small company, that's going to help you evaluate, all that kind of stuff. So we just put all the parameters there, and basically, for each proposal that you get, the idea was just to answer all these questions just on each proposal. Just, try to fill in all the answers. Do they have a partner? Yes. This, that, how many employees, blah, blah, blah. And then once you get every proposal evaluated, then you would rank them, based on your opinions on what you would like to see in our audit.
Okay.
And that, everybody has different opinions. Do you want a big company, small company? Do you want one in Florida, or can they be outside of Florida? It's all the stuff you have to consider.
We don't have location on here at all.
I thought we did, didn't we?
Oh,
Yep, up there,
under
4C, I think.
yep, location of office.
Yeah, big companies will have probably locations in all 50 states,
Right,
some might be in Tampa, the closest might be in Jacksonville, so,
got it.
some might have to travel and charge us time, for travel and hotel expenses, for instance, so.
Right,
That's all the stuff you have to, guys and girls have to gauge, pardon me.
okay.
So we'll have one of these for each.
Well, I would
Evaluate.
just put, one firm would be, just fill out all the information here. So, 2, 3, 4, you could do 6 on this one. And then if you have 6 firms, I'd evaluate each firm based on each question, 1 through 6, and put the numbers here,
Well, because I've got a different.
Well, I'm sorry. Okay, my bad.
That's what's.
Yeah, I printed those big. I deleted it so it looked a little bigger. But yeah, I would evaluate, this is meant to evaluate each company, get all the answers for each company.
Yep.
Then evaluate them all. If there's 6,
Okay.
evaluate them 1 through 6. You rank them in order.
Okay.
But, if there's 2 that are 1, put 1, 1, then the next company's 3, And then we total up the points, and whoever has the most or least, whichever way you guys, decide to do your points.
Patrick, how many firms responded to this the first time? Was it 7 or 8?
Was it 9?
9 it was?
8 or 9?
Okay.
Yes.
And the second question is, looking down this, and I'm going to assume the answer, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Are these weighted in any way? So
Weighted?
Yeah, so, since independence is at the top of the list, right, is that weighted heavier than audit fees, right? So, are all the numbers just, or do we put more of an emphasis on something at the top of the column than we do at the bottom, or is that just subjective?
No, it's, everything's subjective.
You're right, so,
It's
but everything's weighted the same, so.
Right.
A 1 in independence is worth a 1 in audit fees, right? We're not saying that,
Right.
okay.
You're just going to do each company based on each, evaluate each company on each question, weight, 1 through however many you get.
Right.
And then, this is an Excel spreadsheet, so these would all total up for you,
Right.
give you the numbers, but then, we would still ask you, just because the numbers say this is first, second, third, you could go with that, or if you just have a feeling after reading certain ones that you like them better, you could rank them your own way here on the bottom.
Okay.
It's still all personal.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we're not ranking 1 through 5.
I
We're
think you
ranking
might have
1
misunderstood my
through-
question. Yeah,
We're reposition,
You're ranking the companies 1 through 5. We're just not using this, so we're not weighting the average. So the things at the top of the list aren't any more.
oh, yeah, I understand that.
They're all equally based.
Right.
All equally straight through, because sometimes when you're doing an evaluation, there are certain criteria that are weighted higher than
Right.
some of the criteria at the
That's
bottom.
not what I'm
In this
talking
case,
about.
this is everybody's weighted the same across the board, right?
Okay. But what I'm saying is, and this
Yeah.
is where it got hung up at the last meeting, do we need to all agree how we're going to rate them?
Yes.
Okay. So if we get 9 proposals, we're going to have to take each one of them and put them in order under independence. One firm gets a 1, and one firm gets a 2, and one firm gets a 3, all the way to 9.
Okay, let me just clarify what I'm saying is
Okay.
each one of you are going to do your own review. Each one of you are going to separately
Right?
come to a conclusion, rate them 1 through 9 in your 9 proposals.
Okay.
You're going to do your math, and at the end, the 5 of you are going to make a motion to appoint the top 3, whichever they are, based upon how you have done your analysis. So then once we have that top 3, then you're going to change your hats as the city commission, and you're going to come back and you're going to go through those 3 proposals sitting as the city commission and ultimately pick one. So for today, if we're going to modify the factors to include an item J, ability to furnish the required services, then you can give, if that's appropriate, then you can give direction to staff to prepare the RFPs with these factors. And it could be just take the one that you had before, add that addition to it, and then resubmit them. And Patrick, can you tell this committee how many different places it was the RFP was advertised, or how many different people received?
Yeah, I know we put it on our website.
Okay.
I don't think we individually sent it to any company. I think we just put it on the website, and we might have, I can't speak for Walter at that time, what he did, but I know we put it on our website.
All right, we need to figure out what was done before. We want it more than on our website, because people are just
Yeah.
not going to be searching our website for RFPs. So you're going to want the widest exposure that you can get. And so we can give staff, you can give staff direction, these are the factors that you want, prepare the RFP, and let's set another meeting for you to review the RFP, and then we can you can give him direction to release it.
Well, excellent. Mr. City Manager?
Yes, thank you. I know we are now part, and I'm not sure if we were at that time, but with Jamie being on board with us, we're part of Demand Star, which is one of the big services when you put out an RFP. And so my recommendation would be to put it out on Demand Star. I'm sure just as much as doing construction work or whatever, that the accounting industry or the auditing industry follows Demand Star. It's kind of a national database for RFPs.
So I wonder if we shouldn't send a letter to the 9 companies that have already submitted bids.
Yes.
That there was a flaw in our process, so we're asking them to resubmit.
Yes, you can do that, and you should do that. It would be the fairest and most transparent thing to do, and that's my suggestion to you.
Can we send them a copy of the new RFP at the same time?
We have to. We're going to send
Okay.
everybody the new RFP, whether they'd responded before or not, whoever is asking for it.
Okay.
So, Vice Mayor, you're going to need to then come to some consensus as to the factors, if this is acceptable with the addition that Commissioner Price is suggesting, and then maybe have a motion on that, and then a motion to authorize city staff to put their request for proposal together for you to consider at your next meeting.
Okay. So I'd like to ask the board for a consensus on using the current requirements, general requirements that are in front of us, adding in Section J, qualifications and experience. In Section 4, qualification and experience, letter J, ability to furnish, what was the rest of it? I'm sorry.
The required services.
The required services. If that's acceptable to the board, I will then instruct staff to put together an RFP, at which time we will then meet to look over the RFP for approval, and then we'll send it out to the various companies that have already submitted, and we'll broadcast it for a period of 2 weeks before we meet again to go through the criteria, or to rank the companies 1 to 5.
So we need a motion to that effect.
Okay. We'll take it piecemeal, right? I make a motion that we accept the general requirements on the paper in front of us, with the addition under 4 to add 1 requirement of designated J, ability to furnish the required services.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any further discussion among staff? City Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Price,
Yes?
Mayor Hendricks,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Vice Mayor and Chair Andrews,
Yes. So,
Okay, so the next motion would be to authorize city staff to prepare the request for proposal for your consideration to be brought back to you.
And
Do we have a
when you say
motion?
you, do you mean all of us?
The committee as a whole, you're going to need a meeting to look at the RFP that is going to be prepared by staff, assuming it's going to be the same as it was before with this addition. But you need to review it before you release it.
do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we instruct staff to draft a new RFP to include the 4J for our review so that it can be put out as soon as possible.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any further discussion among staff? City Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Price,
Yes?
Mayor Hendricks,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Vice Mayor and Chair Andrews,
Yes.
Okay, so we've accomplished the tasks that you need to accomplish today. The only other thing I can think of would be to go ahead and schedule your next meeting. And by the way, you can do these before a commission meeting or a commission workshop. I mean, if you wanted to do them like a half hour in advance, then we don't have to
Can
do
we
them on
do-
separate
can
days.
Yeah,
do
really,
it
we
now?
can't just do it every day, we just want to come here every day. I mean, I'm earning my $569.73 this month.
I think you
That's
need a
for-
raise.
Heck, yeah, man, we should have talked about that last night, come on. Okay, what's good for everybody? I just want to do it before, we could do it before the next,
Okay. My question is, how hard is it going to be to add this one thing? I haven't seen the proposal, so I don't know.
Patrick
Can
would
we get
probably
it
be
done
the
today?
best answer to that. What,
I think I have an electronic copy of the proposal,
right, just plug it right in, right?
and, yeah, whoever wants to write that one sentence in or whatever, yeah.
Okay. I believe the city
Give you
attorney.
the language. It's, the statute requires, this particular, part, so.
You need review by city attorney?
I probably,
Yeah. All right, so why don't we just do it prior to the next, we're meeting
29th.
We're meeting next Wednesday, right?
No, we're meeting a
Okay.
week from
At 6?
today,
At
or
6.
yesterday.
Well, let's do this at 5:30 on the day before the next meeting. Is that good with everybody? We're gonna be here at 6 anyway.
Yeah, we're having a special tax millage meeting
Right, that's
Wednesday
on,
next week. We might as well do this too.
that's the 29th, right? Do I have the date?
29th, Wednesday night.
Everybody okay with that?
I'm fine.
5:30.
Make it 5:30? Okay.
All right, if there are no further questions, I'm sorry, excuse me.
It's for Tom. At the very beginning of the meeting, you read proposal, I guess, on all these subjects listed here on the paper. Is that something, is that on the internet? Can we get it off the internet, or is this something you can copy us?
Yeah, I can go ahead and send you the statute.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can specifically reference what I talked about today, so you can focus right on that.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely, I'll
Thank
do
you.
that.
Thank you.
Your microphone, sir.
One quick question. When we put the numbers down on each of these guys, it's 1 through 5.
No, only if there's 5 firms that respond.
Okay.
If there's 10 firms that respond, we're putting either a 1,
so-
a 7, a 2, we're ranking each one of
Okay.
these. Okay.
Okay, good enough. That was just a
That was my
clarification.
question
I
earlier.
needed. Yeah,
If
okay.
you rank them to the far right side in the little boxes there. I could provide a Excel spreadsheet to make it easier.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Because on the lines, you want to write your information, like how many employees they have, 280. So the lines are for information, and then your rankings should be way out to the right column.
Okay.
So if I personally feel like a mid-sized firm is best, I can take the firm that has 10 employees and give them a high ranking.
Right.
And then somebody else that feels like we need a national firm with 1,000 employees, they give that one the highest ranking.
Correct.
And the highest ranking being the highest number, would be number 9, if we had 9 firms.
Right, 9 would be the
Got it.
best, right.
Just making sure, okay.
Okay, I have a question also.
Absolutely. Commissioner.
Okay, we're gonna do this next week, correct? And so I wanted to ask you, is this something that we need to have, we do that here? I mean, we're not doing it at home, we're doing it here
yes.
as a
Mhm.
group.
Oh, we're not doing it at 5:30, we're just approving the RFP at 5:30 this next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we still gotta, we still gotta put it out to bid and then wait 2
Correct.
weeks until it closes, and then
Okay,
we meet back again. Yeah,
All
so we got a little time before we get to that
Okay.
part. Yeah, the 5:30 meeting is just to look over the RFP and approve it.
Okay, thank
Correct?
you.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
But when it does come time for us to, that big ceremony we had of opening up the packets and all this, we do that here?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
It has to be open to the public.
Yep.
The statute specifically says it
Yep.
has to be open to the public, and so you don't want to be doing it in the shades room or your conference room, it's not big enough. You don't know who's going to show up, so the best would be to do it here.
They let us stand in back of us and look over our shoulder while we're filling it out, or?
Yeah, you probably don't want that.
Okay.
You probably don't want that.
So there is no shades on this whatsoever, it's done here in the public.
Absolutely, yeah. The statute specifically says that.
We need food.
Yeah, food that day. It's gonna be a food day.
If we get 9 proposals.
Yeah. There you go. That's good. All right, any further discussion amongst the board?
No.
Tom, you have anything for us?
No, thank you very much, I
Okay.
appreciate it.
No.
You're
Mr. City Manager, you good?
Fine, thank you, sir.
All right, if there's no further business, this meeting's adjourned.
Yay.
How long do you think it'll
So
take?
5:30 now
The
on
RFP.
Wednesday, instead of 6, okay.
Okay, well, do we have to add